Hello. It's been a while, but it's me, Marzistarzi. Everyone say, welcome back, Marzistarzi. Hi, yes, hello. For those of you that are new here, I'm Marzistarzi. That's an internet pseudonym, but I am the future queen and ruler of the book talk tube space-time continuum. Self-proclaimed title, what can I say? Go big or go home. I'm a reader first and a sleeper second. Now that the introductions are over, welcome to the September reading wrap-up. I just did that off the cuff. I listened to 3 audiobooks this past month. I read absolutely no nonfiction books, which has been kind of a resolution for myself to read more nonfiction, so I did not get any smarter in here. And I got sidetracked from the first book that I would pick up, and then I would read 2 or 3 before I would come back to the first book and finally finish that one. What can I say? Mood reading, am I right? I have a whole video about the TBR if you want to go and watch it. I'm now going to give you my honest thoughts and opinions on these books along with a summary and what they are about. The first book I finished is The Dutch House by Ann Patchett, narrated by Tom Hanks. Often described as a dark fairy tale, I would say yes, it's a soberly realistic fairy tale. In a fun, like, oxymoronic kind of way. We follow our narrator Danny and his sister Maeve, who they have grown up very rich inside this beautiful, beautiful mansion. Their father remarries to an evil stepmother, and they are eventually thrown out of the house and basically then have to make their way in the world. So no money, no nothing. I often feel like at times that I am perhaps too young to be reading Ann Patchett books and make sense of them. Maybe I shouldn't be giving my opinion, but what else is the internet for? Am I right? This book made me feel incredibly emotional. Not sad, but upset, frustrated, angry, hopeless, urgent, giggly, sympathetic, confused. The ending just left me bereft, for a lack of a better vocabulary and communication skills. I also wonder if the way that Tom Hanks was narrating this book contributed to my ire that I just kept having with so many characters, because he sounded so condescending for so many characters, even ones that I think I was supposed to like, you know? So is it my fault? Is it my fault I was feeling all these feelings? Or is it the writer and the narrator's fault? And by narrator, I mean Tom Hanks. The story takes place over 5 decades, and it's only 330-ish pages long, so it's clipping along. It's a good pace. It doesn't feel rushed, but it gives you a very long, it gives you a big picture to look at. That's actually the perfect way to describe that, huh? If you're a fan of Ann Patchett, I recommend this book. If you like lit fic, I recommend this book. If you enjoy complicated family dynamics, I recommend this book. But make no mistake, this is Maeve's story. And yes, she is the one on the cover. The next book I listened to was On Earth We're Briefly Gorgeous by Ocean Vuong. I made the mistake of listening to this book and not reading it. I went in not knowing anything about it, as I do very often with the things that I read. I had just known that it was a sad book, it's very popular, and I often get it confused with All the Light That We Cannot See, which is a very different book, because that book is really thick. And this one was shorter, but we're going to get into that. All right, so here's a list of things that I did not know about this book before going in that I think you should definitely know about this book before you go in. Ocean Vuong is a poet, and the novel is written in a very poetic manner. It's also performed in a poetic manner by Ocean Vuong himself in the audiobook. Keep that in mind, because if you're anything like me and you've been to one too many open poetry mic nights, then you're scared. You're scared and you can't do it for a long time. The second thing is this book is basically an open letter from a son, little dog, to his mother who immigrated from Vietnam to the United States and can't read. It covers the grandmother's life, the mother's life, and the son, little dog's life. And it weaves these 3 stories together to create the narrative of, like, their family. Ocean Vuong is an incredibly thoughtful writer, and there are many moments and images that were so well done and well spoken to that they really stuck with me. An observation that it just is always kind of gonna live in my head. Little Dog talks about how he doesn't know that much Vietnamese, but his mother technically doesn't know that much Vietnamese either because she never went to school in Vietnam. So she's really not that well educated. So it's like this huge disconnect, him being a child living in America and learning English and living in that culture, and the way everyone perceives him versus like how much of a connection he really does have to that culture. I just thought that was really great, and it really stuck with me. I want to say that because I was blindsided by the writing style, I didn't like the audiobook narration at all. Bong narrated the book so slowly. I was listening to this on 2 times speed the majority of the time. It's only like a 250-page book, but the audiobook was 9 hours long and I couldn't do it. So my biggest advice to you is you should read this book and not listen to it, okay? Capiche? Capash? Anyways, things have gotten worse since we last spoke by Eric LaRocca. It's basically a horror novella, and I'm just gonna read you the description and then I'm going to speak about it. A whirlwind of darkness churns at the heart of a macabre ballet between 2 lonely women in an internet chat room in the early 2000s. A darkness that threatens to forever transform them once they finally succumb to their most horrific desires. What have you done today to deserve your eyes? This was a really popular book. I wanted to know what everyone was talking about, and now I do. Here are my feelings on the book in as concise a manner as possible. I was grossed out rather than scared. There were many pretty lines and moments that were just not reinforced very well, and I think part of that might be due to the length. It's very short and everything had to happen very fast. I'm not saying that the relationship wasn't realistic and how it was built up. Whatever, who cares about that? I can suspend my disbelief. But what have you done today to deserve your eyes? Tell me how that tied in thematically. You know what I'm saying? Because I really just feel like the author kind of came up with that line and thought, oh, that's good, I'll just put that in this. No, find a good place for it. Anyways, I think conceptually the ideas were there, but they just weren't executed very well. Whatever, right? The whole mother thing, though, didn't land with me. I didn't get it. Not at all. Literally not at all. No. And then the apple peeler, whatever, bro, right? And then I understood that, right, that one of these people was potentially a catfish, and we don't know if she's actually a woman or not. But like, to what end, right? Why? I was just kind of like, okay. I just didn't feel scared. I just was kind of grossed out. The next book I read is My Dark Vanessa by Kate Elizabeth Russell. Trigger warning for SA, grooming, underage SA, depressive thoughts and feelings. Oh, and S word. So this book follows Vanessa as a 15-year-old at boarding school who engages in an affair with her teacher, and then it follows her at 30 when that teacher is accused of sexual harassment by other students, and people are now coming to Vanessa and telling her to tell her story. This book was available through Kindle Unlimited, so that's how I read it. Once I started this book, I could not stop. I finished it in a night and a morning. The perspective in this book was so unique and gripping. This book like held a grip on my heart. Like it had my heart in its fist and it was slowly closing its fist on my heart. The way that Russell set up the book, having it take place at 15 and then at 30 for Vanessa, was really good because at 30 she would reference things that happened at 15 that narratively we hadn't gotten to yet. Me, the reader. I just kept flipping the page because she would reference it and then she would go back to when she was 15. And so I'd be flipping through trying to get to it and we'd start building up to it and then we'd switch perspective again. And it was really, I just think it was really good. I wasn't annoyed with the perspective shifts. I tried to listen to the Spotify playlist that other people had curated around this book, and there was a lot of Lana Del Rey and Melanie Martinez, and I love those artists, right? But at some point, I felt sick to my stomach listening to them because reading this book And the tone that this book had was so disconnected from the tone that those kinds of songs have that it was just jarring. There's an author's note at the end of this book where Russell explains that she basically wanted to create a book that is in conversation with Lolita, and I really think that she achieved that. Something I really enjoyed about this book was all the literary references that were in there, all of these references to works by Sylvia Plath and Shakespeare, Lolita, of course. It was a really engrossing read. After this book, I really had to wind down, you know? I couldn't just go from one heavy hitter to the next. I needed some lighthearted reads before I could jump right back in and put my heart back out there. So I finally finished There's a New Witch in Town by Carolyn Ritter Aspenson. It wasn't good. It wasn't worth it. There's like no point in me explaining to you what happened because I did not like it. I went in thinking it was going to be a witch romance novel because that's what I'm about. But it was just like a murder mystery that was frankly unnecessary and not clever at all. It was basically just some bad Sabrina the Adult Witch ripoff. There were so many cliches in it, which could have been fun because you could tell that the author was having a lot of fun with the cliches, but just everything was so weak. The only romance is there if you squint and like tilt your head. It's a Delulu romance. Speaking of delusional romance, I reread The Importance of Being Earnest by Oscar Wilde. I love this play. I think it is so funny. I know a lot of people who have perspectives on classical plays that are like, they're boring, they're dumb, but they're not. You're just reading them wrong. Because here's the thing about Importance of Being Earnest. If you don't know, The Importance of Being Earnest is about two men, Jack and Algernon, who have both claimed to go by the name of Ernest so that they can court these two women. Jack has claimed to be Ernest in the city, Algernon has claimed to be Ernest in the country, and all sorts of shenanigans ensue, except the girls that they are in love with they are cut from the same cloth. Gwendolyn, who Jack wants to marry, she's like, I want to marry you because I love the name Ernest. That's a great name. That really does it for me. And then Cecily wants to marry Algernon. When Algernon meets her, she's like, we've been engaged for the past 3 months. And he's like, girl, what? We just met. And she's like, no, I've been writing you letters for myself. You've been dragging your feet, all of this stuff. She is incredible. She truly manifested that. It's funny. Just read it with the thing in mind that these people are hilarious. Lady Bracknell is this hoity-toity older lady who has opinions and they will be heard. After that, I finished The Heaven and Earth Grocery Store by James McBride. This book almost read like a high fantasy novel because of the way that we would go to so many different perspectives and places and the lore/culture each place had and person had. It's about people living in Pottstown, Pennsylvania during the 1930s. It's about the different communities and how they're interacting. So you have the basically descendants of white settlers, Christian, and then you have the Jewish community, the Black community, I believe the Italian community, all sorts of people, right? Two of the key characters, Moshe and Chona, are married, and Chona runs the Heaven and Earth grocery store. Moshe has a theater hall where he gets artists to come and play, and then other two characters that are really important are Nate and Dodo. Nate is the janitor of sorts to Moshe's theater, but also like his closest friend, you know? And Dodo is the son of a woman who passed away, and so basically they kind of all come together to take care of Dodo in a way. This is a story about community, not the TV show that I was obsessed with for a little bit. Something that really stuck out to me was the way that McBride took so much care in describing these characters. He really made a point to explain to the reader, me, that there's a difference between a Jew from Austria and a Jew from Romania or a Jew from Hungary. Even though in America, the white Christian population in this book would just have you lump them all together. They're all different. And that was so difficult for them all to come to America and then basically be lumped together and then have to find a way to work together. The same thing with the Black population, the community that lived on Chicken Hill versus the Old Gods. Really good though, really interesting. The way that so many people just, you would learn about someone and then you'd see them in the background of another scene and then maybe you'd never see them again, or they play this little part about how it all came together in the end. The ending felt like the best heist movie of all time. It was a really good read. I really enjoyed the community aspects of it. It really warmed my heart, but it also, it put me through the ringer with my feelings. It was, yeah. There's so much love in this book that didn't manifest itself in this like cookie cutter way. It manifested itself in like marbles, which you'll get if you read the book. McBride had such a great control over the flow of this book. I thought it all went very nicely together. I loved it when we would learn these little secrets about the characters and see what would happen with those. I really recommend this book if you come across it. Don't pass this one up because I think it's really good, especially if you live in America. Come on. So after I finished that book, I was like, you know what I'm going to tackle next? A reading vlog. What's this reading vlog going to be about? Tragic lit. And it's going to come out eventually when I'm done reading all the books I want to read for it and I'm done editing it. So the first book I read for this little side quest is No Longer Human by Osamu Dazai, translated by Donald Keene. Trigger warning for depressive thoughts and actions that lead to S-word attempts, substance abuse, and SA. I'm sorry to speak in letters like that, but I have no idea what I don't want to say the censorship is on YouTube, but the demonetization policies. Basically the censorship policies on YouTube. Does monetization matter because I am a small channel? No, but, we can dream. No Longer Human is, I feel like, Dazai's most popular work in the Western world. It follows a man named Yozo who feels severely disconnected from the world and people around him, so much so that he does not feel human. We follow him from his childhood through his adulthood. I am not going to say any more because I have a video coming and I have edited part of it, but I will say that it was a really interesting reading experience, and I didn't know that there would be so many moments of misogyny. So the next book I read, also for the vlog, that will come out eventually, is The Bell Jar by Sylvia Plath. Trigger warning for depressive thoughts and actions, S-word ideation and feelings, and SA. Take a look at me. Take a look at me in this white girl, white bread America. And how do you think I felt about this book? Because if you thought, yeah, she probably loved it, you'd be right. It's a 5-star read for me. I watched Zuri from Up in the Air talk about how one of her favorite genres is sad woman in a cosmopolitan city. I relate to that. The Bell Jar is just not what you probably think it is at all. I think there's this idea that it's this super highbrow, philosophical, retrospective, but it's not. It's a very easy to read, and it's really funny, frankly, in the first half. The Bell Jar follows the main character, Esther, who is in college, and she's doing this objectively incredible internship with a magazine in New York City over the summer. But she's also slowly going under the Bell Jar. It's inspired by Plath's own experience in her 20s. I found the protagonist to be funny, and there was just something about her that really endeared me to her, so when she really started going through it, I was really affected by that. Again, I don't want to get too much into it, but oh my gosh, if you are a woman in your 20s, you should read this book. You have to read this book. I was going to say it's a canon event for you to read this book, but you're going to see me make that joke so many times that maybe it won't be funny anymore. The next and longest book that I finished this month is Cloud Cuckoo Land by Anthony Doerr. He's the same person who wrote All the Light We Cannot See, which I just saw the movie trailer for. I listened to this whole thing. I listened to the whole thing. It's a 578-page book, and it's a 15-hour audiobook. It is narrated by Maren Ireland and Simon Jones. I loved this book. This was a book that kept me company. I was listening to it in the mornings on my way to work, and maybe even for the first hour of work. And I would listen to it on my drives, and by the end of the book, I felt like this book and I were really good friends. I really enjoyed the audiobook narration of this. I will say, though, that I just did not like the way that the kids were voiced. I don't think that has anything to do with the way that the voice actors, narrators were doing anything. It's just that I don't like kids in high, intense situations in books. That's a bookish pet peeve of mine. Don't like kids in my books. It follows 5 perspectives. Omir and Anna, who are alive during the 15th century, Constantinople. Their stories are intertwined. Present day, Zeno and Seymour, those stories are intertwined. And Constance, who is on a spaceship in the future, going to an Earth duplicate. All of their stories are connected by a Greek novel by Antonius Diogenes called Cloud Cuckoo Land. Antonius Diogenes is a real Greek author. Cloud Cuckoo Land is not a real story. I think listening to the story rather than just reading it really enhanced my experience because it really allowed me to differentiate the characters in my mind and hold on to the things that were happening to them. So when I heard their voice again, I was so easily able to recall what was going on in their situation. I loved the way that climate change was talked about in this book. It weirdly left me hopeful, even though I know it's not going to go well. You know what I'm saying? I enjoyed the way that in the beginning, these characters were overlapping and you were finding connections between them thematically, and by the end, they were directly connecting to one another. I just really enjoyed that. I loved the way it all came together. This book, because of how thick it is, seems really intimidating. I was intimidated, but go ahead, check out the audiobook. I'm really glad that I stuck with it because I think it's a read that really rewards you in the end. As the story came to a close, I didn't want it to end, so I just felt, I was really in my feels as I was in my car listening to the final minutes of this. Ooh. It was so good. It was a 5-star read, I believe. The next book I finished is Palestine Plus 100, edited by Basma Ghalayini. Okay, I'm just going to go ahead and quote you what's on the back of this book. A collection of short stories by Palestinian authors who are answering the question, what might your country look like in 2048, 100 years after the Nakba, an event that saw the expulsion of over 700,000 Palestinian Arabs from their homes in 1948. All of these stories had a sci-fi element to them that was really interesting. These are definitely short stories that you have to read, digest, and then pick up the next one. It was really difficult for me when I first started reading because I was reading them back to back and I was kind of overloading myself with feelings and thoughts and things I needed to look up on the internet. Oh, my 3 favorite ones were Sleep It Off, Dr. Schlott, Final Warning, and Mudball Kid. So, should you decide to pick it up and you haven't read any of those, let me know what you think because those were my favorite. And now, the final book I read for this month, A Deadly Education by Naomi Novik. And I am sorry to say that I ate this shit up. Oh my gosh. This story is basically one of those, it's like Harry Potter, but there are demons that are eating the wizards, especially the kids. So if the kids don't go to the school, they have a 1 in 20 chance of survival. But if they do go to the school, the Sholomant school, then they have a 1 in 6 chance of surviving because even the school is dangerous and the demons get in the school and still eat the kids. But it's better in there than out there. You know what I'm saying? Everyone in this book has a magical inclination to animals or like water or whatever. The main character, Galadriel, or Elle, is magically inclined towards mass destruction. What a relatable thing for our protagonist to have. She's 16, she's in her junior year. What more can I say about this book? There's an intense magic system, a really cool world. There's a she's everything and he's just Ken kind of love dynamic going on. There's a ticking clock and a lot of politics. I tore through this book in ways that I have not experienced since I was a teenager. I was such in a silly little reading mania after this that I had the audacity to give it a 4.75 stars. And that's strictly based on the reading experience because in looking back, in hindsight, now that I've read more books, I think I'm gonna have to make a full video on this because I am having thoughts and opinions. Yeah. Look at me. I'm just promising you video after video. We'll see if any of them come to fruition. They will. They will, my beautiful little readers' stars. Of course I'll do that for you. Because I'm a responsible booktuber. Ka-chow. Oh my gosh. Well, those were all the books I read for the month of September. What a great reading month. Wow. Okay. I'm really happy that I can share this with y'all. If you've read any of these books, please let me know what your thoughts and opinions are because you all know that I have them. So here's the thing. After the Sholomance series, I'm feeling it. I'm feeling we gotta get into some fantasy, you know? Is this the time? Is it now that Marzistarzi finally finishes a Brandon Sanderson book? Who's to say? Probably not. Probably not. I hope that you decide to subscribe so that you can be in the loop for all of those great videos that I have coming out. Okay, so I also wanted to say that at the time of recording this, I have 33 subscribers and one of my videos has 250 views. And I understand that in comparison to all of these huge influencers that we see all the time, that those are really small numbers. But it's really cool to me. And like I said, I have told people in my real life about this. And so, you know, probably like 10 of those subscribers are people I know. But that also means that there's 20 people out there who decide to subscribe to this channel. And that just feels really cool. And yeah, I only want to make like really good videos for everyone. But I also want my videos to be fun. And it just is really, I just find it really great. I know that everyone talks about going viral all the time, but I am really enjoying building this slowly over time. And if this is as big as it ever gets, I think I'm going to be okay with that because I won't lie. I love rewatching my own videos. I mean, 33 subscribers is not bad for a girl who can't figure out how to make her thumbnails not blurry and pixelated. So, yeah. Thanks so much for joining little old me here today. I hope y'all have a great rest of your day and a great reading journey. Bye-bye. We'll see y'all next time. So very quickly, for those of you that would like to stay after the video and talk with teacher a little bit, I'm going to tell you a story. And the story is about how I filmed this video before outside in the 100-degree heat. I thought it was going to be a good idea, but then I was watching it and editing it. I spent almost 6 hours editing it, and it's really bad. It was really bad. I couldn't stand it. I had to redo it. And so I've redone it. And here it is redone for all of you in its glory. Thanks for listening. Bye.